Well, Mayor,
His holiness was a little slow getting up here.
With that time.
Yeah.
I need the oil. I need some
That
oil.
was pretty good.
I need some oil.
Hey, Ralph.
You got an appetite today.
Yeah.
Funny to see
Lord
him.
Haley, Lord Haley over here.
Y'all wanna pray for me? Come on, I'll take it. Somebody wanna lay some hands on me?
No way. Madam Clerk, can you keep roll?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Mr. Bailey,
Present.
Mr. Brown,
Present.
Ms. Hubbard,
Here.
Mr. Brennan,
Present.
Ms. McDowell,
Mm-hmm.
Mayor Rich.
Yes, here. You mind saying a word, Reverend McDowell, before we get started?
I'm scared. Me too, after that, I'm scared too, man. Let's bow our heads. We come today to discuss very important issues within the life of the city. We pray that you might touch each one of us individually and collectively. Bless us as we discuss, bless those who might present, and create within us the kind of sensitivity that might lend itself to a greater community. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I heard that, Peter.
Mr. Mayor, would you all like to adopt the agenda?
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as it is proposed and listed?
Someone.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Hubbard,
Aye.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Ms. McDowell,
Yes.
Mayor Rich.
Aye.
Well, thank you all for being here and ready to roll this morning because we do have a full table set. I know I've been saying that we were getting to this point, so this is probably the most meaty of the budget workshops that I anticipate we'll have, and I know there'll be a lot of follow-up from it. Please know that we're coming to this discussion from that overall framework that, you know, we've continued to talk about, and certainly you all are doing your parts to push, you know, quality of life, growth, amenities, leaning forward and buckling in for this wonderful, beautiful city that's experiencing just like an energy that I think everybody feels. And so all of that requires us to be very responsible, particularly as staff, in our approach to being ready. You know, we say that we do our very best with service delivery already, but we have to be projecting through this growth model. So again, that's where we're coming from, thinking about hopefully the future revenues that will come, but working in the gap is what I always call it, because that's sort of where we find ourselves right now. They're not quite there. We see it right on the horizon. What do we have to do now to be ready for that trajectory and the service delivery that will be necessary? And so some of the discussions today will probably be a little hard to hear, but it is all about realities. And I would not bring in anything unnecessarily. Obviously, I need you all to help then guide us on what we do about it. But I just want to give you the information. And for me and all of you, I know that in our community, public safety and public works related areas of the city, you know, fleet, the back of the house functions that all assist public safety is very important in the community. Because if people don't feel good about that, we know that a lot of the other things that we're trying to do will not, will not succeed. And so we're starting right there. So this is the meat of it. And I'm gonna have all of our public safety functions and those leaders to come and talk with me as we get through the information. It's a lot of information, so I'm gonna go as quickly as I can. After each section, if y'all can let us get through it, I'll see if you have a question then, and then of course at the end. But I'm hoping we can do well with our time because we have a lot of other items to get to after this. So we'll get started, and I'm really thankful, of course, to the whole senior team, particularly Missy Kaufman, who's the glue, along with her team. I know Stephanie is here, who works with Missy. But we are here to present the FY 26-27 proposed budget as it relates to the general fund, just the overview, and then the public safety priorities. Missy Kaufman, Assistant City Manager of Strategic Initiatives and Innovation, will assist as we work our way through these slides. So Missy will come up and we'll get started. We're gonna talk about the general fund revenues to begin with, and then we'll move, like I said, into a review of public safety departmental needs. Let me say this, what we're focusing on today is really over and above what these departments have asked for the next year's budget, right? That's sort of separate. It ain't in balance yet. It never is at this point in time. We get there. But these things, so that, keep that in mind. So we're coming from a place of what they need these things right now too, and next year and in the next several years. But these are the things that if there's another mechanism that we'll make some recommendations about at the end, it's sort of the big picture things that are very necessary. Then we'll talk about how we align service expectations with the current resource limitations that I mentioned and discuss those strategies to close the gap. Okay? Missy, you wanna start with the revenues?
Good morning. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, and thank you for this incredible team. An opportunity to be here with you all today. Looking forward to this discussion. Everybody's excited about budget season. I know we all are. It's our favorite time of year. Some of us like to think that it's all year, so we're glad to have you enjoying the celebration with us, right? So we're going to talk about revenues to start. This is where we always start to have real conversations about our budget, of course, the utilization of our strategic outcomes, growth initiatives, and those things that guide us in terms of how we make allocations and make determinations of programs and services going forward. And then we start to get the reality when we start looking at our revenues and where where we're going to be able to fund these different growths and initiatives. So looking what we have done today, projections that we have for 26-27 revenues and transfers in is a combined $180 million. I'm going to focus first on revenues. That reflects revenues of $166 million. That's totally those things that we generate actual revenue for: property taxes, business license, permits, charges for services, fines, fees, and so forth. That increase for revenues is $5 million, or about 3.1%. And you can see that our revenues fluctuate based on certain, usually it's been with some one-time events that have occurred or one-time activities that have translated to a specific spike. We do not reflect any rate increases or proposed increases in those revenues at this time. Transfers in reflect right now at $14.2 million. That is a current net reduction of $8.7 million. That's because we do not yet reflect the use of any capital lease proceeds, and it also does not reflect use of fund balance. So the current year that we're in, 25-26, we did a capital lease of only $4 million. Our typical lease had been $9 million, and then we were able to up to $15 million in 24-25. But this current year, we had to drop down because of availability of budget. So we could only incorporate $4 million for that, meaning that's all we had in terms of available debt service to borrow. So, and then fund balance, current year was $5 million. That was an increase from our typical $3 million use of fund balance. So we have not yet made a determination of available fund balance for this budget yet either.
So, I'm sorry, that's the unappropriated surplus? number?
Correct. Yes, sir. Yes. And it shows prior year actuals of 0 because when it's budgeted for, but ultimately it just comes off of our fund balance if we need it at the end of each fiscal year. We have not needed to actually utilize fund balance for the unappropriated part. You will see there are a few spikes where in 2022, we did have a big spike use of fund balance from when we had allocated like 20 million into CIP from an accumulation of multiple years of of fund balance to capital projects and special projects. That was coming out of COVID, and we had been kind of at a halt and not really sure where everything's going, so we had held on some fund balance. That fund balance has now been spent and has been invested in projects and programs. Okay? So we'll continue to update these estimates as we go along. Any other questions about our revenue streams and transfers? Just so cycling in a little bit closer on specifically our revenues. Again, property taxes account for 45% of our total revenue streams. We have projected revenues of 74.8 million. That's an increase from 72, so just a little over 2 million in property tax growth. And then, of course, combined, all the primary sources of the general fund revenues include property tax, business license, and permits. Those combined make up 75% of our total general fund. So this also demonstrates the reliance that the city still has on one-time revenues and transfers in. Many of our one-time revenues are now exhausted. Uses of ARPA funds, of course, are gone, are depleted, as well as, of course, as we've mentioned, fund balance is subject to availability. Okay, any other questions? So as Ms. Wilson's mentioned, we, of course, as we have seen a lot over the years with regards to our revenues, having some modest growth based on just the fact that we're in a growth environment, but also, too, we've also added a number of services. We've expanded services, added new services. Our revenues, in general, are not keeping up with the pace of just what those services are bringing in. And we have, as mentioned, we have exhausted many of our one-time revenues. Of course, we have revitalized energy, we have a lot of investments, and we have developments, and we're operating from that growth mindset. We do have a reality, though, that we have to face with regards to the fact that services and demands for those services are growing more than our revenues, and we have limited flexibility within our budget, and so we have to look at new services. We have to look at new resources to be able to incorporate these new services. So what we're going to focus on today.
Let me ask you a
So,
question.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Greg, rub me down.
The impact of our economy upon the city,
Yes.
how do you see that, how do you see those services being impacted? And what percentage you think that's going to grow? It's not going to decrease, but it's going to increase, is that right?
In terms of our growth that we're
Yes,
seeing, yes,
yes.
so we are working on some models and some projections. I don't know if Jeff wants to contribute to any of this as well, but we are looking at what our growth is. Of course, we are fortunate, we have had, looking to see what our growth has been in recent years and then looking at where our growth is going forward. I don't have a percentage that I could share with you at the time. Any growth that we do have, based on where the city sits and based on just even if we look at property taxes of that growth, the city gets 17% of that growth
Well, other
In
than,
District 1,
in District 1.
District 2 is 15%.
Yes, sir.
okay, so other services are ultimately going to be impacted.
Yes, sir. So as we add services, as we grow, we also have to add services for that growth.
Okay. Great, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. So today, we're going to focus on our public safety needs and just looking at our overall public safety picture. Of course, public safety, the city we are a service industry in our general fund budget. The majority of the general fund budget is for personnel because we are people. And our services require our employees, our number one asset. And so staffing, recruitment, and retention remains a top priority, both in public safety and across the city, both for this council and the city manager. Of course, our infrastructure and our facilities, our community appearance and quality of life. We have a number of beautification programs that are in place. We've brought some examples in today about some things that are not so beautiful in our neighborhood, in our community, that we want to make sure that we show that we are taking those things seriously, and as well as our capital and technology replacement needs that we have on an ongoing basis.
And those last two bullets, our position is that they affect public safety as well. There's a direct tie, and, we'll talk a little bit about that.
All right. So we're going to start with the police department. Of course, Columbia plays a unique role. We own that uniqueness. We are the capital of the state. That also brings with us a unique and consistent public safety responsibility, both with tourism as well as other visitors who are here to visit our capital. They're still in our city, so we still are required to provide those services. The budget that we have for the police department maintains current levels. As Ms. Wilson mentioned, today's conversation really is talking about things that require some additional, will require some additional revenues and some additional resources to be able to address as our city grows, and so do our services. Of course, a lot of our public safety facility needs require additional improvements as well. Our police stations, as well as our equipment needs. Use of technology has grown pretty substantially. Chief Holbrook has demonstrated to this council many times the value and benefit that technology has brought to being able to policing, and being able to help with addressing service gaps, of course. The budget itself, as mentioned, it services a function for them to be able to focus on now, but if he were fully functioning, a fully staffed department, that would be a funding gap of about 14.7 million. So that's just demonstration, yes.
I'm gonna jump in
Yeah.
with each of these areas, Missy, and then let the chiefs
Yes,
and the different directors speak just a little
Absolutely.
bit to a couple things, but I think that's the key with police. So, with all of these areas, they're doing a lot. They're sustaining the needs and the service delivery. But to your point, Reverend McDowell, as the growth continues, and the service delivery has to grow with it. And so the model that we really think now's the time to shift to for Chief Holbrook is a model of going ahead funding at his authorized strength. So he's maintaining what he needs to do. He'll talk about the gains in recruitment particularly. Also, we've got to keep towing the line with retention. But even as he's doing that, to the point earlier, we've got to be thinking about Olive coming online, and Grand Bohemian, and hospitality, and retail, and residential, and these things that we anticipate in the next 3 to 5 years. So we need to be now getting him funded at his authorized strength. And I'll let him speak more to that, but.
Well, does that model carry over surplus annually to keep building with a backlog of funding?
Well, that I think is what we're gonna get to, is how,
Okay.
it's not just police, obviously, because these are big numbers. So it's gonna require, another level of addressing the revenue that's needed to get us there and keep us there, because that $14.7 million would be annual, an annual increase just for the police department. But it's an approach that would positively impact response times, proactive policing, the workload, officer workload, and long-term crime reduction. And you all have been very great already about recognizing with that officer workload piece, some of the things that you've allowed us to put in place, which I know he'll speak to quickly, and the benefits of that already. Not having the officers now taking police reports for just minor traffic stops, the alarms that they're no longer having to go run to every time. So you want to speak to some of this, Chief? Sure, and I know that he's also shared with y'all his annual report from this past year and his strategic plan. Yes, ma'am.
Just real quick, I think what Mr. Brennan, are you asking as it builds up if it's not used?
Yeah, it's not going back into general fund, it's accruing towards
Does it stay
future goals.
with police
Yeah.
or does it go back into the general fund?
Does it accrue?
Does what stay with
That's what I
police?
The extra, like any extra that's not used as we try and build up the budget at the end of the year.
If the
Does it-
authorized funds aren't met, that delta, does it carry forward for future
With that department,
with that department?
It goes back to
I
the
think
general
we
fund,
do it.
that's
That's what I thought.
that's what ultimately comes back, and that's where what we utilize as part of the fund balance allocation, so those things become part of the fund balance. But he's not at this point now, he's not carrying that kind of fund, he's not carrying that kind of.
Yeah, that's why I was
Budget-
making sure we were
budget is
clear.
not in surplus.
Yeah,
Well, I guess mine was more of just an approach, kind of commitment to
Sure.
that approach question.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that would be incumbent on the chief, that every year, that again, it's, I'm trying to think of an example, but it's sort of like, in your household, you've got to make sure that you're aspiring to certain things with your budget and you are getting the things done. So he knows there's this expectation that we've got to maintain recruitment efforts and we've got to retain people, because the more he does that, there should be a number that we're trying to make sure every year over and above where he is, because of this expectation, which comes with the modeling of how many more officers do we need in the downtown or the North Columbia or whatever. He's got to be shooting towards that all the time, right? So every year, we would be looking to see what we've met and then what's left over, to your point, Mr. Brennan. We would use it probably in different ways, but the expectation would be that he's always trying to, reach that authorized strength.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So the FY 26-27 budget that's before you, it continues to invest in our most important asset, and that's our people. The STEP program that you all authorized year before last is, I think, has been extremely impactful in demonstrating to our staff the investment that you all make in public safety. What we are doing right now at 400 Laurel is going to be transformational for our department. We are very excited about, hopefully later this fall, about cutting a ribbon down there. And we're not quite to the point where I think our staff is fully realizing the potential of that building and the impact it's going to be. It's just visually, it's still kind of a work in progress, but we are very excited about what that offers. As Ms. Wilson said, we're continuing to leverage technology to work smarter and more efficiently. One of our strategies has been civilianizing some what has previously been traditional sworn roles. That includes investigative techs, crime scene investigators, crime against children investigators, accident investigators. What you all will see now is really a pretty unique model that we're about 4 months into it, but we are using cadets and civilians to respond to minor traffic accidents that would typically tie up an officer for an hour and a half to 3 hours. Literally would take them offline, and they're responding. We've had just overwhelming positive response from our citizens, and of course we're still putting civilians in our real-time crime center, and that has proved to be incredibly impactful for operations. We've also taken advantage of bringing back some subject matter experts and retirees, not just from the police department, but from in the law enforcement profession in general. And then Ms. Wilson touched on the what I refer to as the call for service reduction initiative. And I want to share just a couple of numbers with you on that. Civilianizing and privatizing our mental health transports, we've decreased calls for service 45%. The false alarm ordinance that you all approved several years ago, we've had a full year of impact on that, and that's decreased our false alarm calls, which were about 13,000 by almost 20%. Private property collisions, we've decreased collision response 58%. And how we respond to animal control calls has decreased 48%. So just, just some subtle changes in just response modes has been impactful in terms of reducing our calls for service, freeing our officers up to be more proactive and more available. Our response times still remain very strong for priority calls as we address just an array of public safety issues. We all know the number of events that we cover every year, public events, whether it's festivals, rallies, protests, sporting events. It's a lot, and our officers respond accordingly very well.
Chief, well, not to take you off your train of thought, but this really touches upon Chief Jenkins and his team too with fire, but you mentioned large-scale events, but, protests, things at the State House, state government activity. So just to make sure, again, as we're talking about projecting out to the future, the daily commuter population is increasing because of this rapid urban growth. We are a capital city, talk about Fort Jackson, and there's just so many things that I think go unsaid because our community is used to the fact that we're a capital city, but sometimes we need to reiterate what that means as a capital city for the service delivery.
So I think we all have an unintentional way of just, taking for granted that we're going to be there and we're going to be at this event or that event. With our staffing, these extracurricular events off of our general staffing and operation model, it's extensive. And oftentimes it is last minute. And that takes a physical toll and a toll on the mental health side with our officers. It's very disruptive. Oftentimes, you're catching them on days off or after a long shift. And those demands have not decreased like we've done with some of our other categories that we've been able to reduce calls for. They have increased exponentially, in my opinion. We're always going to have the concerts and athletic events, but what we have seen in terms of requests for us to assist our state and federal partners with whether it's dignitary visits, rallies at the state capitol, those all start on state property, but they almost always end on public property that we're responsible for. And we still have just tremendous relationships with our county, state, and federal partners. They are tasked with addressing these issues too, but from a public safety standpoint, and I would be remiss if I said that we're not talking about just police. I mean, on these special events, anytime that we're in a deployment posture, so is fire department, and oftentimes so is emergency management. So it's collectively, it's a public safety, it's a large ask for public safety that is exponentially increased over the last several years.
And Chief, y'all do a great job with those two, just to put that out there.
Thank you. So, Ms. Wilson, we're budgeted at a strength of 360 for this upcoming budget. We really believe our sweet spot, and to the point of this slide is, with the shifting and continuous growth, we really need to aspire to be at 400. I think as a constant number, and that would include just standard attrition through retirement. We have a pretty decent amount of retirement eligible people, and we always got to keep in mind what natural attrition and how that's going to impact. But some of the things that go with the officer beyond just salary and benefits, I just want to reiterate this to you all because that's really what drives this number. Obviously, you have your uniform and equipment, but your body cameras, your vehicles, the fuel that goes with the vehicles, you know, you got a weapon system, a less than lethal weapon system, you got a radio system. I mean, these are high dollar pieces of equipment. To totally equip a police officer with their vehicle and their equipment, it's about $193,000. That's a lot. That is a lot. Some things that I've pointed out to Ms. Wilson and our staff in terms of you know, some things that I think are mission critical that we don't have that we need, and we need to be thinking about that as we're looking at future investments in our people in the police department is body arm. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have to talk like this at this current this current day, but we have body armor that we provide officers. We need to have ceramic plates that they can put in their body armor when they're responding to active shooters that stops a rifle round. We do not have that. Our SWAT team does, but the standard patrol officer doesn't. We don't have ballistic helmets for our patrol officers. They should respond to active shooters when oftentimes we're up against high caliber rifles with ceramic plates and ballistic helmets. It's a big ticket item.
Now, Chief, that is after you put on the vest?
Yes. We obviously have collectively, and again, it's always much appreciated, we've taken a very proactive approach in looking at alternate funding sources for our mobile command vehicle, an armored vehicle for civilian and officer rescue, and negotiator vehicle. We've really got to step in a rapid DNA in our crime lab. And then, of course, we have already invested in drones, and I really think that is the next major technology that's going to assist operationally with response to certain calls for service and being able to cover our greenways and our park systems. We're going to rely heavily on drone deployment, and that'll start in this fiscal year.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Chief, does this cover the 475? Does it cover code enforcement and like pathway units that you know, work with our homeless population and
This number is strictly Class 1 police officers.
Class 1 police officers? So your general budget request doesn't include any code enforcement division?
It maintains our current, the general, this year's budget maintains our current 360 and our current 125 civilian staff. It does include code enforcement.
So they're considered the category you just said? Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's in, so these things, this again, everything we're talking about today with these, all these areas is above, you know, over and above.
Understood. Yeah.
But those things are in their operating budget that they've requested. And I want to say we did a little bit more with code enforcement last year's budget.
We did substantially, yes.
Yeah.
Equipment and people. We've reorganized. It's a better organizational flow for span of control and responsibility, and I think it's worked out really well. I would also like to just, in closing, point out to the strategic plan that's before you. It aligns perfectly with what we're talking about today, and it takes us through 2030. It looks at 4 particular areas, strategic priorities and outcomes, and that would be our infrastructure and technology modernization, our workforce growth and optimizing our workforce, professional development and retention, and crime reduction and public safety strategies. There's a one-page tear sheet that sums that up, and I would provide good talking points for community meetings or questions you might get after this.
Chief, I heard you mention the ceramic plates and the ballistic helmets. Is there any additional equipment needs, significant equipment needs that you think are not listed there?
We,
All right.
patrol rifles. So in terms of having the proper posture for rapid response to active shooters. And again, it's unfortunate we have to talk in those terms, but we've been, over the last several years, we've added patrol rifles, batches at a time as we can through our budget, and we'll continue to do that this year. But our goal is for the patrol rifle to replace the shotgun as a standard issue equipment. We've got a ways to go to do that, but we are making progress. But patrol rifles, ceramic plates, and ballistic helmets for frontline officers is a priority.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you all.
Chief, let me say this. I think your vision and this strategic plan sort of fits in and blends in to what the city is all about as it relates to CPU. I've had an opportunity to just scan it, and one of the things that sort of got me, it's not just a document. It's an action, it's action. And this is what this represents, I believe. And I want to thank you for this, and I want to thank you for, there are some real needs out there. There's some things we got to get done. But what we got and what this strategic plan does is lends us and gives us the kind of strategy we need between 2025 and 2530. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. And I will say with that strategic plan, to Ms. Wilson's point, those are measurable outcomes, and I do expect you to hold me responsible for that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Herbert.
Just one quick question. When are we aiming to start this fiscal year or next fiscal year? And is there a particular year that we know we have to be there?
Well, we're gonna get to that on the final slides to
Okay.
kind of all wrap it up for all of them, because, you know, PD is certainly important, and that's a big number, but we're gonna show you a few more, so I wanna
We
get
got
it.
some more big numbers.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And with that, Chief Jenkins, thank you, Chief Holbrook. Much appreciated. Great job. So Missy and I will do the same, kind of tee up the fire department, which is continuing the discussion of stabilization of staffing, strengthening recruitment, retention, and maintaining operational readiness. I will say, because I must, that, you know, we always have to fact check, and when we have the opportunity to do it in a public forum, Chief Jenkins and his team have done an amazing job since 2015. I think maybe that was just, I'll chalk it up to just didn't hear the right number maybe when a reporter reported yesterday that we have had no hires since 2015. I mean, clearly that's erroneous. We've actually hired 673 sworn firefighters since 2015. So I wanted to make sure that our public is very comfortable in knowing recruit classes at the fire department, quite frankly, are more full than they've been in many years. And we're very happy about that. That doesn't mean that we don't have to keep improving and trying to build towards the future. I mean, needs are needs. That's not a bad thing to have needs. We just have to put it on the table and address them for what they are. The compensation investments that you all, as with the police department and the STEP program, have created a lot of gains in helping to reduce the vacancies from approximately 75 down to 49 over the past year. So these staffing levels are definitely providing a stronger frontline service delivery and capabilities for response. We've had recent capital upgrades with the burn building renovation, Ladder 7 and Engine 12, and the Swiftwater response truck package, as well as enhancements to firefighter safety, training capacity, and the ability to serve a growing community. And that's what we want to talk about with fire, is that continued investment in fleet and facilities. That's really where I think the chief wants to direct your attention particularly.
Yes, ma'am. And some of these items that are up here are items that we were able to purchase utilizing prior year surplus. Some of them, when I mentioned some of the allocations from 2022, as well as our ARPA funds that were made possible because of those resources. Then next, we have, of course, the fire department's operating capital needs, and some of the staffing needs that the fire department has expressed is more with regards to fire marshals and safety officers. That's, of course, addressing our growing building, commercial buildings and things of that nature, as well as they too also have equipment that's needed, a variety of different equipment that's specialized for the police department that's required and needed. And then, of course, this fire station modernization. Many of our fire stations, while maybe in good operational functionality, there's still some modernization that's would be needed, both in terms of addressing privacy with regards to male and female dorms and bathrooms, exhaust systems, hot and cold zones with regards to firefighters as they come in and remove their bunker gear as they come in, so a couple of different things of that nature that requires work at several of our stations. From a longer-term period, of course, as we go on, we always know as a part of our capital improvement program, funding would be required to help us address other back capital needs for those stations. And of course, there is a need for looking at additional stations. One of the other requests from the fire department is putting in a ladder truck at the Harbison station to be able to address some of the growth that's out there as well. So the station is there, but to put the ladder company out there would require the purchase of a ladder as well as the staff for that ladder. So those are certainly a number of the items needed for the fire department from both the near and long
When you
term.
say 20 to 30 million long-term, is that annually?
That was more capital, so those are more one-time type of,
The
You
collective.
sure that number is,
it's probably more of it per station. Yeah.
What's sitting in?
because I mean, today, I mean, with the construction need, obviously, where you can keep some of our historic fire stations that makes sense, but I think the bigger question is as we are making a plan to invest in how we get there,
Right.
how does that look from, are we at a point where we know we've got to shift? We're gonna have to find a new location because that location no longer helps us hit the boundaries.
ISO rates.
Zone rates that we are trying to keep up. And so I want to make sure as we're having this discussion, because we're talking about multi-year, long-term strategic plan, we need to make sure that we're we don't need to go into this trying to be at the bare minimum. We need to understand what the real number, because whatever discussion we have with the public about how we move forward on public safety.
Sure.
We are the capital city. We are the place where 17.1 million people are coming in and out. We are the place where every event happens. We are the place where people gather and swell every day. So we've got to look at things differently than I think other cities and other places. And we got to have a real discussion here. And after this is over, I'd like to throw some ideas of just start thinking about how to address it. But I think we got to know what realistically what that looks like. I think we're underestimating what our needs are gonna be.
So you have a schedule that shows what the estimates are per the different stations. So it's about 6 to 8 per station, and then, of course, some of the stations need renovation, some will need new. So that information can be available.
And I
I think
think,
it's important for the discussion.
and I'm not sure if council recognizes that the memo is that's what I was asking, because I didn't
After
see
the
it, but it's
presentation.
after the presentation at the end in your packet. It jumps to this memo for fire, and at the end of that memo, it has a chart that shows the short, intermediate, and long-term needs per station. But again, and I think Chief has talked about this also in the fire committee with the county, that same memo has been replicated for them with the county side. But obviously, they would do an assessment, to your point, Mayor, so you know really what, we have to hire a team to come in. I think they know a lot because obviously we've just done a beautiful new station in Olympia, for example, that they are able to pretty closely replicate certain stations based off if it's a good template, based off what we've recently done, but you still have to bring in and do a full assessment, to your point, so we know with clarity.
And I think it's not just the stations, it's, the backup equipment, and how do we take advantage of reserve fleet that maybe it's used equipment that we're able to reserve and, making sure at the same time that we're investing in our fleet management, right? Our guys do an incredible job, but they're limited as well, and we need to give them the resources to keep
Yes.
up
Yes.
as well. There are a couple other things that we've talked about in the past, but I do think that we're gonna have to talk about it in the future. And I know Lexington and other places do, and I've talked to a lot of cities across. We should be, when our guys are showing up to an accident and they are taking care of that victim or that person that's involved in that, we're using equipment, we're using bandages, we're not being repaid for that. We need to file with the insurance just like EMT does. Other cities are doing it because the wear and tear, and this goes to our fire discussion we had the other day. We really need to be looking at long-term EMS or EMT vehicles being incorporated into the firehouses and they being the first. And maybe that folds into a whole long-term contract that benefits all the citizens. But right now, we're constantly having to foot the bill and we can't continue to do that.
Chief, isn't that something we've talked about in the past?
And Chief, why don't you come on up, because I know you've got, thank you, Missy, you're gonna add
Chief, that's,
your perspective.
that's something we've talked about in the past. And we just talked about it. We have not implemented that kind of service. And I think the mayor is right on target. It takes a whole lot to do that. And not being reciprocal in payments
I got you.
brings about a real hardship, I think. I'm sorry.
So as I was sitting there, I was telling Chief Holbrook, all I gotta do is get up here and say amen and sit down.
Amen.
Because you all have really pleaded what was on our mind when you talk about, the responses and you talking about making sure that even what we talked about the stuff getting reimbursed for stuff, I think we leaving a lot of stuff on the table because we don't get reimbursed. The city buys all this stuff and we run these calls, and even the wear and tear, when we talk about our fleet, the wear and tear on our fleet is tremendous because we send them big trucks out to medical calls, and we ought to be having some QRV and some quick response vehicles that need to be responding. But I wouldn't advocate that us taking people off the truck to respond in these units. I think we need to have additional personnel to respond in
I
these
think we
units.
definitely have to look at it that way. And as you know, there's less than 10% of our calls are fire, right? Actual firefighting, which are critical, and we need all personnel hand on that. But when you look at auto accidents and EMT calls and all that we do, it is a bulk. So there's massive wear and tear, equipment being used, disposables being used, all of that stuff that we're not getting reimbursed for.
That's right.
And once again, disadvantage of being the capital city, we have more service calls than most folks do, right?
Absolutely.
And so in the areas that we cover and the backups that we provide, the risks that we put our firefighters at. And so I just want to make sure that we've talked about a lot of these things over the year, but the reality is we've got to start addressing it. And it's got to be part of this plan. It's not going to happen overnight, but we've got to start stretching it out. But other communities in the surrounding area are going to start doing things in January because they're seeing the same thing we are. I'm thankful for our service calls that we do with the fires. Obviously that is our critical, but we're having to do more, and we need to plan that way and adjust how we operate our system. And I think this is where the county partners need to come to the table as well and just say, look, we've got to address this in a holistic plan that benefits this county, because this county's gonna grow. We haven't even felt the ripple effect of Scout yet.
Mm-hmm.
And if it has any effect like Boeing did in the low country, it's gonna be important that we're addressing these needs now and not waiting till it's too late. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, completely agree with you. And, you know, outside of, I think we realize our immediate needs that we have to tackle. But all these layers, we're talking about operations, equipment, facilities. I mean, I feel like that we need to start moving towards bringing on a third-party knowledge consultant to really start bringing all this together as we move forward in our short-term, intermediate, and long-term, not just facility goals, but just if we're going to tweak the operation, make it more efficient, really focus on savings maybe in one bundle and investing more in equipment, for example. I think we need to start moving towards that.
Well, and I would add to that is the modernization of how fire departments operate, the way they're changing shifts, which is, it's a big culture change.
Staffing, all of it.
Staffing, I mean, all over the country, people are switching into different shifts and staying. It's about quality of life. It's about maintaining and retaining and all that. I think this is the time we need to have a comprehensive move forward and dig deep into it and really have that plan, because I think that will allow us to then go to the public and present an opportunity for public safety, because public safety is, nothing else matters if public safety fails.
100%.
I mean, it just absolutely, you don't have a safe neighborhood, you don't have safe businesses, economic growth, all of that dives down if we don't have that. So this needs to be a priority. Mr. Johnson?
This is where we've been heading. So this is like the moment in time that we've been working towards for the last 4 years. To have this conversation, which leads to an economic model that has to be done. There has to be a growth / economic / cost of services model that all fits together. And this is day one of maybe it's officially day one, because we've been talking about it for a while, but that's just the reality.
So buckle up.
You can't have a
Johnson,
growing,
and
you
then
can't have a
Mr.
growing,
Reverend
thriving
McDowell.
community without an economic
Absolutely.
model. That's
Absolutely.
just where we're at.
So buckle up.
Buckle up. Well, this is great. I'm glad we're having this conversation,
Transition.
because this is the conversation that I've been wanting to have.
But, and I think it's because we're different, we have to start addressing it differently. We can't operate like a normal city. I mean, I hate to say that and repeat that, but the reality is no other city deals with what we deal with when it comes from events and everything else. It really has a massive impact, and we're starting to see that to a point that we can't continue to carry that and then take our residents and other folks paying the price for that. You know, I mean, there's a balance there, and the balance comes with a dollar amount, right? And we're gonna have to make that decision, and there may be some things that we're gonna have to tweak here and there, but I do think there's an opportunity, Mr. Johnson.
One comment on that front, from a modernization, I know we all frequent nationally good cities, different municipal organizations. There's a lot of technology that's coming to the fire field that certainly in that modernization conversation, I think we have to be looking at. Quick question, what's the lifespan on like a ladder or some of the different?
So, once upon a time, they should up to about 15 years. An engine up to about 10 years. But now, the way that we're running all our equipment with so many, we catch quite a bit of fires, and quite a bit of runs. And the mayor's right. Most of our runs don't come through fires. They come through other, like automobile accidents. We're talking about EMS calls, stuff like that. So that equipment don't last as long as it used to. So we really gotta be thinking about, trying to reduce the call volume of our big ticketed stuff, our large equipment, especially our ladder trucks. They there for a specific reason. So they used to last a good long time, but also keep in mind this too now. So when I first came to the fire department, the city was so big, so it didn't run all over. They didn't have the infrastructure and the buildup that you got like outside the city. The city wasn't annexing. I mean, you all are very aggressive in your annexation. And so you're bringing more and more in, so these trucks are having to be more task saturated running cars. So that's what's happening. That is the wear and tear on these units. So we really need to, I agree, we need to do some smaller vehicles.
Should have been annexing. We should have been going.
But that's what that assessment, that operational, just the entire assessment will give us for that blueprint.
So I appreciate you saying what you said, Mayor, because we do need that person, that third party, whether to come in and do these assessments. I tell you right now, my staff are so task saturated that we just don't have time to do everything that is required of us to do. We got departments that are smaller than we are, but they got a better, I'm not, all staff is the best. What I'm saying, they got more staff to do stuff. My staff does a phenomenal job. I'm telling you right now. You're talking about some smart people, very smart. I'm fortunate to have them around me. But we can't do everything. Even when we talk about getting more fire marshals, you got to have more fire marshals. Because you all, when I say you all, I'm talking about the council.
But Chief, you're exactly right. And part of the discussion just is the reality is that we know what our needs are. What we need is the help really to plan out the proper way and be able to present it to the public. At the same time, as we are talking about adding fire marshals and others, we need to grasp the technologies that out there that makes their job more effective, more efficient, and quicker. We still today get bogged down in paperwork, where technology today will allow people to do things much faster, working much better, quicker, easier, and getting real-time information sharing. And so it's a balance that we've got to do. We've got to build up that infrastructure. But we have done everything to maintain. We have to grow now. We're beyond maintaining. We have to grow, and a lot of this is, from periods of the past. We can't control that, right? We are where we are today, and I think our obligation is to do everything we can and find the resources, the opportunities on how we address it. And it just has to be. I mean, we know the age-old answer. 72% of the property is not off the tax rolls in this city. It's only 34%. But that's 34% that aren't contributing to this. There's, 17.1 million visitors that come through. We swell every day by 80,000 plus people. We got 75,000 college students that are in and out, this and that. So we do have we absorb a lot. I think this really sets the stage for us to look at how do we address the public safety needs in the future without putting because constantly the burden's only put on our residents and our business owners who aren't getting a tax break, who aren't doing this. So how do we find that balance? Because we want to be the inviting city. Other cities are addressing this through various forms, and I think we ought to look and see what's been successful and how do we use that to truly move this level, because it's not just us, the county's in the same boat, right?
Yes, sir. And the chief has talked about over the years, the university, we're a college university town, we're a capital city, we're a state government city. So everything you're saying, Mayor, is spot on. And those are, of course, entities that are, non-taxable. And Chief's talked a lot about their cost for service to the universities, for example, particularly. We love our biggest one, but I mean, it's a burden, and we're
Well,
just
it's
putting
grown.
everything on the table, so.
Okay.
It's doubled in the last 15 years.
100%,
So
100%,
let me ask
so.
this question. So on that front, right, so calls for service to the university, are those fire calls? Are those other emergency calls? I'd be curious what truck are we sending
So
to university?
And so those are some of the things that I think a good study and assessment, if we could bring that back to you, because I do want to be conscious of times. We've got a lot to cover, Mr. Johnson, Councilman. But those are things that I absolutely think through the right type of consultant. And I know Chief Holloway's here too, but the fire study that was most recently done has been shared with the members of you who are on the Fire Advisory Committee. But that's something we can share with all of council again. And it could be kind of a baseline, but I think this next version of what you're talking about is really help someone else to help us map out, now how do we put these things to practice? You know, how do we educate community on what it's gonna require? How do we look at some other models? Legal have to look at it too, about fees and different
I mean, technology's
mechanisms.
changed from 2022 probably when you
Yeah.
had the study done.
The change in the last 6 months,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah,
we're
so
just-
technology
It's a
and,
moving train, but also at the same time, you know, as we look at that, I think it'd be very beneficial for this council to be able to see, if you look at the service calls in some of our areas, how we reduce those service calls, and what is that? You know, what are the needs that are there? You know, some of it has been some of our unsheltered, you look at those hot spots, but we also have community needs where we're having multiple service calls. So how do we help reduce that? Is it because they don't know what resources are available, or do we need the resources there? I mean, there's a big global picture that all comes into a plan for the future. And I think we really gotta start talking about it. These decisions all need to be data driven. You know, I mean, we are emotional about it because we want, number one, our firefighters and our public safety officers and everybody who works in a situation like that to be safe. We want our residents to be safe, on our business, and sometimes those are emotional. The reality is we need to bring that together with the data. These are the real needs based on the statistics that are with that. And I think we're there, and I think we need to make it our top priority here.
and the data would certainly help go to, as y'all are asking questions about this modeling, how many new fire marshals and building inspectors per year do we need to be bringing on based off a lot of the data? We're working on that, not in the weeds
How does
of it today,
technology
but how
help
does
the existing
technology
guys
help?
actually
Yeah,
better? I mean, it is still a
That's
little
right.
antiquated
That's right.
in the way we operate,
Of
because that's
course.
the way but now technology and the things, the meta example that we saw in Austin, where a team has developed the inspections and have the ability to use the glasses to identify problems right there on site. They're able to picture it, send it to the project manager, to the supervisor, inspections and all of that, tie that in. That's time and money that's saved on all parties, right?
yes, sir. So, that's a great takeaway from this discussion about this, this type of consultant chief moving forward. And I know we'll get with your team to
And I think,
implement that.
also, Chief Adams, which is over our fire prevention, and Chief Holloway, which is over our operations, they are constantly looking at new ways that we can better do our job with the modern technology. So,
Chief, the thing that I appreciate more so than anything, is that we are having this conversation.
yes, sir.
For I don't want to say for years, but we have, the kind of conversation we're having today, reimbursement, all of the other facets of this conversation, we have not had that conversation. And one of the things that I appreciate is that it's on the table. And it's on the table because I think there needs to be some appropriate action taking place. We've talked about this, you and I have talked about this some over the years. It's on the table now. And I think it's up to us to make it happen. Thank you, Chief.
I think some of the things that we talked about would even cost the taxpayers anything.
Absolutely,
That's true.
It won't cost them anything.
absolutely.
But also,
Insurance?
yeah, also what we can do, instead of just billing out for the fire service, we can also include our law enforcement in that as well.
Thank you, Chief.
It becomes a two-edged sword, actually. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you so much, Chief, and Chief's team members that are here, thank you. So we're gonna keep moving as our Director of Emergency Management, Harry Tinsley, to come forward. These next few sections will probably go a little bit quicker. Harry is the glue, really, that helps all of us, but particularly police, fire, and 911. And he's our eyes many days. So we are excited about and thankful to you all for the public safety complex that's coming online at 400 Laurel. And Harry's a big part of that with Chief Holbrook as well. And the Emergency Operations Center, Real-Time Crime Center technology upgrades. Even though I was like, Harry, I feel like we're just in our stride over there. It's already time for technology upgrades, but it's the exact point y'all just made. I mean, for what they're doing and what the force multiplier it is, having this ability to work from EOC and Real-Time Crime Center, we have to keep up with the technology because there's so many rewards for having it running at its maximum capacity.
Yes. Thank you, Madam City Manager, Mayor, members of council. Thank you. I'll be brief. I will take you back just a minute and say I appreciate your support, this body's support to get our Emergency Operations Center to the state of the art that it is, and will continue to do. If you recall, we were at 1225 Lady Street. We moved into 1800 Main on October 2020. So we're approaching 6 years. We're actually in the middle of an upfit to go to 400 Laurel, as you know, and appreciate your support on that as well. That is a big need, a big project. With the changes in integrating emergency management into the daily operations, specifically the police department, what the police chief has done, and bringing in the Real-Time Crime Center, technology is key. And technology is always changing. AI, all the different things that are coming up, the platforms. When we moved over here in 2020, within the first 2 years, we had 6 office space. When we moved over here, we were double that capacity now. And we are working in workstations. This new location will give us an opportunity to have office space where folks can focus on what they need to focus on. We'll have a dedicated space for the analysts in the Real-Time Crime Center and computing all the data. There's a lot that goes into the back end of that ecosystem with the computing power, pulling video, downloading things that happen not only in the city's internal security camera platforms, but also the ones that are out here on the streets that the police department relies on. And having eyes from the Emergency Operations Center is absolutely crucial. We have already been experiencing, because some of this technology starts to age out about 5 years, so we're having some technical stuff. We're addressing those. We did replace some components this year, but moving into the new location, this ask here is to help us build out some new computer capacity displays and make sure the ecosystem is working holistically throughout that 400 location.
Yes, sir, and it's become such a model. I mean, you see in this picture, not just CPD, but all of the other agencies that love to come and work with y'all there, right?
Yep. It's always, pretty much always operational. Any kind of public event we have, any kind of festival, we're in there, CPD puts folks in there, fire puts folks in there. We ask for EMS to, depending on what it is, if it's any kind of event at the State House that draws large crowds, it ends up, if it's summertime, there's going to be some heat-related issues, so we try to partner with all the local agencies, Highway Patrol, you see BPS there, SLED. Anytime we activate that video wall system is being used to maintain live situational awareness throughout the city and around our community. I will point out that there are components of this process and different offices and different workspaces that if something happens and the 911 center gets a call, that call goes out to the public safety agencies, which is typically police and fire. And then they'll start triaging that call in real time from right across the street and looking at analyzing data. So you have to have a place for a particular person to get some information for an investigator while they're still maintaining situational awareness. And Chief Holbrook spoke of the drone programs that I think that's going to be a game changer too. We'll speak more to that in the future, but pending any questions, ask them.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Appreciate you.
Does that 500,000 include getting more cameras?
It's just the technology to be able to watch those cameras and and compute the images and download them. With the capacity. It's more than a desktop, it's a high-end.
I hope so for 500 grand.
They're in a rack server in a room, yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
So quickly, we'll ask Sean. I don't know that Sean will have a lot to contribute because it sort of is what it is. You know, you all more than enough
Just,
know
on
about
this
municipal
one, I
court.
mean,
Yeah.
if we're able to get the federal courthouse, what does that do to the cost?
So we have to get in there, and that's what, as you know, we've been trying to get back in there for that type of assessment. We would hope
This is
that
worst case.
number, yes, sir, yes, sir. And this, and maybe Henry can speak more to it, Gregory wasn't available this morning, because I was gonna ask him something similar based off the last iteration, Henry. But we've looked at 2 sites so far. I know Sean has sent me some other sites that he's always keeping an eye out for. And then, of course, the federal building complex that we've, as the mayor's
Which would be
saying,
ideal.
it would be ideal. So we're just kind of waiting to hear. I know Henry has calls with them as frequently as they will allow. So we're working through that. But in general terms, that's probably been the high end of some of the other sites that we contemplated.
And what's the timeline? Or is this something we're planning on doing?
It absolutely has to be done. Just think about the fact that where we currently are is somewhat is detracting from the marketing and sale of Justice Square. I mean, we're ready to roll to put, Justice Square, we're softly already marketing it, even with court still in place. But you want to speak to the timeline real quick of when Chief Holbrook and those will move to 400 Laurel? Then we'll have to get the court staff out of,
I'm sure you're interested in this. Yeah, so the Public Safety Complex should be done by the end of the year. It is going very well. I'm very grateful for Gregory and his work and the actual team that's working on the project. And the whole goal, of course, with the municipal court is what Ms. Wilson just shared. We're trying to get into the federal courthouse. Once we get access and have the ability to use the facility, then we can get in and truly access what type of design and what work will be done. So we'll need to hire a design firm to kind of help us design it. But it will not, we do not anticipate 22 million. It'll be significantly less than that to renovate that because it's already a courthouse. So it has most of what we need. It needs some upgrades, lighting, technology, and some other things, but not as much as $22 million. So we anticipate once we get in there, it should not take us long to get to that place where we can occupy, but we just have to get in there and take possession of it, and then we can have a better idea of how long that's going to take.
Ms. Wilson, so I hear the 22 million worst case scenario. What's the ask in this general fund review to go towards the 22 million? Are we stair stepping into that number, or?
I think if we can get y'all to this last slide or two, it might make a little more sense. I
Bring
mean,
it all
we're,
home.
yeah, yes,
All
sir,
right.
yes, sir.
And I did want to add too, at some point, I guess we need to have a discussion, or are there going to be recommendations for looking at our salaries for our contractual agreements that we have with some of the folks that we appoint?
Okay, yes, so Sean has already provided a briefing on the, judicial component. Yeah, so he'll be prepared. Stand up, Sean, because I know you all know our wonderful court administrator, Sean Grant. He's doing a great job. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank
But
you.
we can have that discussion, yes, ma'am. All right.
Next, we are moving into some community appearance and investments that have been raised by some of our council members and programs to be offered. Of course, this is continuing on our current narrative in terms of beautifying our city, which we think is beautiful all the time, and so it's always nice to be able to continue to add these additional opportunities. And as Ms. Wilson mentioned, this is definitely related also to security and safety. So, I know Robert's here as well, but one of the first programs discussed is the Neighborhood Beautification Grant Program. Again, these are aspirational costs at this point, so we need additional discussions, but it would be a grant program offered for neighborhoods to be able to do some signage, some neighborhood cleanups, as well as some opportunities for youth, and I see.
So Brenna?
So Missy, let me ask you something. So this is snapshot moving forward. Love to see this funding. What funding is in place now for beautification via Public Works, via any other, our funding towards hospitality districts? I mean, I'm just trying to understand who on the team is out there, keeping our city beautiful.
Public Works, code enforcement.
What's that funding
Those would be
like?
the first
What's the funding
ones.
number specifically for beautification? I'm not talking about flowers and medians and all that. I'm talking about day-to-day litter patrol, keeping every major, minor, every road clean within the city limits is kind of the number I'm wanting to see.
I think we probably need to gather what all those different components would be, but Robert may have some additional, he's saying that, yeah, so.
He's got the math in his head. I know he
Right,
does.
You don't want to say it.
Yeah, so we can pull those things together and give you a snapshot in terms of what all of the efforts are related to
Right.
beautification, litter control, everything from litter control to plantings and.
And if it's a third
We're
party.
talking about main thoroughfares in this, what's there, and I think what we also want to see is more than just those main thoroughfares, right? But I think the main thoroughfares, our question should be is, we need to have a conversation with the state. They contract all that gas money that's being collected is being also paying for part of that highway cleanup system, which they're around every one of our 9 gateways. Is there an opportunity to work with them to have those crews do what they're doing? Because I saved a voice message, which I'll gladly share later, from a lady who just basically told me this was the nastiest, ugliest city she had ever been to. Well, guess where she drove down? 378. And when I went out there to Lowe's, where she was talking about, literally the entire median was filled with trash because it got cut. And so those, whatever pieces that were out there became thousands of pieces. And all you saw, basically from the Lizard's Thicket all the way down to, what's the road where you turn to go to Southeast Park? All trash. That whole thoroughfare. I get it. But this is one of those, it's DOT road. So is there a way for us to contribute and partner with them that they could run those same crews? Because you go down I-26 and 77, it's pretty clean, right? So how do we have that same on 277, Highway 1, 378? I mean, Monticello Road, you can't even see the sign. It's covered up when you turn right onto
That's why
the
they
road.
want to give us those roads. They're not doing
Well,
their
we don't
part.
want them.
We don't, we want them to do their part. They're not doing it.
And look, let me say this differently. If they wanted to give us all 400 miles worth of road, I think that they own or whatever it is, they'd have to give us $2.5 billion to take them.
I agree.
I mean,
But I think there's a way maybe we could piggyback on what they're already doing. If you watch those crews, I think it's Bagnell Fence and somebody else who has those contracts. I mean, it wouldn't be much for them to go down those stretches. They're already there.
but I think that's not a now issue, a now solution. Like, what are we gonna do for the next year? We're not gonna come to an agreement, a partnership with the state for the next year.
Well, I mean,
As
we're
our-
putting money toward, but I hate hiring a crew. And the other question came back, somebody asked me the other day is DOC, Department of Corrections, used to have a crew that we could partner with. Haven't done it. Are they doing that again? COVID's over, right? So is that something we should reinitiate with them? Hey, do y'all have the road crew?
Well, I guess my question is, what is the number for us to just bootstrap it and do it ourselves until we can come up with an innovative partnership? Because I'm just sick and tired of just seeing, once you see it, you can't
Can you
unsee
use
it.
the word contract? Because the one thing we can't do is hire a bunch of more people because.
I'm fine with the contract, but I just want to know what the number is.
So the proposal for the main thoroughfares, so the first program is, of course, neighborhood, and that would be with the neighborhoods and partnering with the neighborhoods and letting the neighborhoods manage a program within themselves. The main thoroughfare program is a contractor-led for 8 cleanings per year in our main thoroughfares, about 50 miles.
I think-
But neighborhoods can't come and pick up illegal signs and easements. That's not something that they're allowed to do.
Well, and I mean, and typically when we've done these neighborhood cleanups, it's a majority of people from other areas cleaning up in neighborhoods and then the folks don't follow up with it. So we gotta have some type of standard, because it is a problem in a lot of our neighborhoods.
Let's let Robert, maybe put a little color and insight on this, after, what is it? I keep asking, I'm not asking you this every time, it's just getting to be amazing. Of 32 years. 37, oh my. So he's seen it all and I think has some great, institutional knowledge on this. I will say too, I sense the frustration. I have it as well. I was coming from somewhere yesterday and by the library and coming up Park and, that amount of trash. I think it's a combination of several things going on. Everything the mayor just described with the bigger DOT-related roads and areas. But we also have to hold people accountable for what they think is mission-driven, and I get it. But they are leaving individuals who just may not know any better, so let's just say that, in a position where trash and, just human needs are not being met by feeding and that type of thing. And so I don't know if that needs to be on the table as well. If we can't get you not to do it in another place that we provided for you to do it at no charge, then maybe there should be some fees and different other mechanisms to hold people accountable for the debris that is left behind. This is very frustrating at this point where some of these, just piles of trash. I mean, I didn't even call y'all because honestly, it's like our folks come clean. I know Main Street District, I've been in conversation with them. They're frustrated because the yellow shirts try to help. But there does need to be some new approaches, 100%.
I thought that was in that new fee schedule we came up with 2 years ago. It just now, it sounds like it's just an enforcement thing. I mean, we had that commitment, I thought, to actually interface and, give fines for
We
that.
need to look at that a little. I don't know that we're doing fines like that as far as an enforcement. I know we had some discussions about it, but I don't know that that got put into the our fee schedule. So we need to do that if we didn't.
Because I think we leaned into that pretty strong and caught a lot for it too, but we were committed to chipping away at it.
We'll double check.
So I am going to go backwards a little bit to go forwards, and I will say that the city council 20 years ago, maybe even longer than that, time flies when you're having fun. So, but years ago, we started a residential street sweeping program. We have a commercial street sweeping program. This is things that are outside of the norm. You can truly tell a lot of times, Mayor, when you talk about it, you can truly tell when you leave the city and go into the county, they do not have a street sweeping program, even on state streets. The counties doesn't have it. So, we're trying to work on these streets. Last year, we put in the median sweeper that is just now getting up and running and, it's currently in the shop. It has a bad code on it, but this median sweeper that's sweeping the dirt off the medians is coming on board. We currently have 2 residential or commercial litter collection crews that rotate throughout the city. But we also know where our hotspots are, and you can spend a half a day on a hotspot sometimes and go back 2 weeks later and it's back to where it was. So we have those. The city manager about 4 years ago put in a sidewalk edging program. We talked about this a little bit the other night at our community meeting, that not everybody on Main Street mows their yard and edges their yard at the same time. This crew comes down and edges, that. But if you take Farrow Road, when they edge it, Farrow Road to us is 6 miles long, because we have edging, 6 times. So the mile we do is actually 6 miles long, and then we blow it off. But that gives us a consistent look of what we're doing as a city. The programs we're looking at, go ahead,
What
sir.
does 6 miles represent from start to finish?
That is, well, we have to go edge one side, edge the other side of the sidewalk, edge the curb,
okay,
edge the curb,
okay.
edge the sidewalk, edge the sidewalk.
All right, all right.
So those crews, and by the time they get through and they blow everything off, we've looked at technology. Would still love to see a lawnmower that actually edges the road for you instead of us having to do it by hand, but we're still looking at technology. The programs we're talking today is coming out of discussions that we've heard from council, and I think it's a twofold program. The Neighborhood Beautification Grant Program is to go back into the neighborhoods and make the neighborhoods have a little pride. We've actually met with a lot of city staff already and came up with what we consider was a viable plan. And the $200,000 really gets you a signage grant, but it's what's on top of the signage grant that really makes that program a little bit bigger, was that we're going to require the neighborhoods to do 4 litter collections within their neighborhoods at a minimum, to get the youth involved, to get the churches involved, to get the neighborhood involved, so we know this. And that would be part of the sign. We threw a sign out here, and maybe the sign would be some kind of consistency when we do that. But also, as part of this, is we went a step further and said, years ago, I know the city manager was part of this, and a lot of other people in this room, we did neighborhood cleanups once a year where we went in and on a Saturday from 8 to 12 and got the volunteers and had USC, the biggest one I can ever remember. And I will tell you, the food that day was amazing that Durham Carter and his staff cooked. But we went into Martin Luther King Park and with the university, and 100 universities showed up in that area. And we took code enforcement, animal control, and forestry and beautification and solid waste. And we just, police department, fire department, and we went through that neighborhood that day and trimmed trees, picked up trash, picked up some private lot stuff. The neighborhood was right there with us with our volunteers, and it gave the neighborhood some community pride. And afterwards, we got everybody together for a luncheon, which a lot of people stayed for. And the reason we got together after that was for luncheon, to make sure that the neighborhoods knew that we were still a part of the neighborhoods and we wanted to continue what we did in these neighborhoods. So we did several of those communities that year, and this would be part of the new neighborhood beautification. So the first piece of the neighborhood beautification is inside the neighborhoods and making neighborhoods, believe in themselves. And I know there was we brought this to committee. This is not a neighborhood for District 1 or 2. This is a design for 1 through 4 that anybody can participate in. The second piece of this, it kind of enhances our main thoroughfare litter collection that we do every day, and that is for the main litter collection and the sign removal. This is to bring people in 8 times a year. I believe currently now DOT has their litter collection crews coming in 6 times a year. They're supposed to mow after the litter collection crews, but this would be just an enhancement of part of what we do of bringing these contractors in. And then we built a couple extra events in. We talk about special event collections. Rivals to Red was a big event for us to make sure that we made this city look good for Rivals and Red. But as we talk about all these programs, I want to go back to staff. Our staff actually looks at what's going on in the city. I met with Dominion earlier today. We know college graduation is this week. We know what we need to do. So with the beautification enhancements that we have in place now with our litter collection crews, our maintenance crews, our cutback crews, then we have our beautification crews where council a few years ago put some money in the budget to where we're mowing our main thoroughfares, which is putting our people back on maintaining the beds. As we become a walkable city and a bikeable city, we know that we don't need a 55-mile-an-hour maintenance bed anymore. We need somebody that's going to be able to walk by a bed and not see the weeds and stuff. Councilman Brennan and I spent some time in 5 Points yesterday doing a walk around, but we know that we do that. So all of these programs that we're proposing this year is to enhance what we have now and continue to make this. And I do believe as we talk about beautification, we talked about public safety, that beautification makes a community pride. So, and, makes communities want to clean up and want to do better. And I think that's what this is about, is getting those communities involved in each other and getting the youth involved in there. So, but that's the biggest 2 projects that we're bringing forward.
Getting rid of the 2,100 empty lots helps, because we've seen it in Martin Luther King for some of the complaints from other neighborhoods about what's happening in that neighborhood. The growth there has stopped calls, because I've called you a whole lot less about dumping on empty lots, because there are houses there and there are people there. People don't show up and dump everywhere either. My only other question for you, Robert, is at one point, we talked about investing in one of those vac trucks that a lot of cities are using in other places to clean up, that goes along and just sucks up the loose trash that's in the medians and on the side of the road. Is that something viable for us to have?
Mayor, is that different than a street?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these vac trucks are, they're great with technology. They're about 350,000, I believe. We've looked at them. We actually have a roll-off body. We could put one on, and I do believe it's included in our budget request this year. But what it does is it has a joystick that a guy can operate the joystick, and he can run down the road and he can run this. It's also used during litter collection or leaf collection, that we can pick up piles of leaves with it. That's its real design, is to pick up leaves. A lot of city use it during the year to pick up bigger material.
Mr. Mayor, certainly this came through my committee, and when it came through the committee, I made a request of staff to make sure that I got an opportunity to drive the street sweeper at some point this year. Certainly.
Is that why it's in maintenance?
I haven't driven it yet.
That's right, the car is in repair
If we get a vacuum truck, I definitely gotta put a joystick on that. When I look at the 200,000 and the 130 here, my only concern is that it's not enough money. And then, my concern on the 130 here, the main thoroughfare, is, one, I'm not sure that 8 times a year is gonna get it. And then, to Councilman Brennan's point, if we've got folks who are, just bad actors, not, putting the debris down on purpose intentionally, it doesn't matter how often you're doing it, because they're just bad actors, but also, if we're finding them, that helps pay towards, our activities here. And so I think we've gotta make sure that enforcement piece of the puzzle is part of this conversation. But I don't know what the right number is, but I think for making sure our youth are engaged, which is also a public safety and community engagement element as well. I think we gotta think through what the right number is there, and figure out what that 130 truly needs to be.
I'll let you represent, yes.
So Councilman, I'll kind of answer a little bit of both of them. The reason the 200,000 was in there is because we needed to start somewhere. And we didn't think that we could handle 25 neighborhoods a year coming into this program. We wanted to start out a little smaller and see how this done. This would be somewhat, possibly some kind of reoccurring funding every year for this, because we talked about reoccurring fund. There's been a lot of talk with the committee. I know we talked during your committee about, to the youth, do you want to pay the youth? Do you want to give them a gift card? Do you want to do this? The bigger cleanups are bigger, that you sponsor a lunch. But the deal is, the signs were about $10,000. So it was to get the sign. The mayor talked about it a little bit before I go to the next one. The Booker Washington Heights meeting the other day, the one thing that I heard clearly out of that meeting, even though I heard a lot in our 3 hours, was our sign looks bad. Our sign looks bad, our sign looks bad. And that's one thing keeps going through my mind is, years ago, we put signs into place, and it wasn't under my purview, but it really doesn't matter. We have them in my neighborhood. They're wooden signs. Those wooden signs rot. And what? We do not need a wooden sign. We need something that's going to last 20 years or 25 years, so we don't have to do this.
Grants to the neighborhoods for those signs, and they're supposed to maintain those signs? If you maintain a wood sign, they tend to last too.
So they were, but I think that was 25 years ago, and those signs have rotted off, and we get a lot of calls.
I remember when that sign went in. Miss Belfield was still alive.
I think that's a good point of the $200,000 being a good starting place to see neighborhoods take some ownership and have those cleanups and engage the youth, and then we could look at increasing. I'm interested to see how many neighborhoods participate, because Council of Neighborhoods always talks about the Love Your Block grant. We go to neighborhoods to talk about the Love Your Block grant. Sometimes I know we still have those funds that are unallocated because neighborhoods aren't asking for it. So I think we can do a good job being ambassadors to get that message out. And that $200,000 is a good starting number.
Well, it's an initial start.
Correct.
The engagement of our youth and community and cleanup would certainly help tremendously. So it's a start.
That's right. And Councilman, we actually see community development driving this grant side of this program. They, like I said, we've had a group of people together talk about this and laid out a lot of ground rules of what this would look like. And, they would be a big part of getting this kind of back to the Love Your Block grant. The second, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, Robert, after you, of course, hit on streetlights, and that's a huge driver for public safety as well, and y'all's coordination on some things we've done more recently. And then if you'll go into the animal shelter.
Sure. So
I want to talk litter some more. So after you
Okay.
talk about this
Sure.
second item, I want to talk.
Okay, so the 130, the 8, and I'll be brief on this one, the 8 cleanups was to enhance what we're already doing with our 2 crews. Our 2 crews also all empty all the litter containers in town. One of the things we've seen, we worked with the police department recently where we took 2 litter containers off of Calhoun Street. Those 2 new big belly litter containers that got installed 2 weeks ago are actually compactor litter containers, so they'll hold twice, or they'll hold about 4 or 5 times as much litter. The problem is they're $5,000 a piece when you buy them, so they're a very pricey model that work off solar, but they will hold a lot more litter. And that's correct. So what we did first day when they didn't turn them on, but we've rectified that last week. So
Where are those deployed now?
they're at Calhoun and Calhoun and Assembly Park in Calhoun.
That just came up. Let me double check that.
No, we just put them around. We permanently mount them because they are compactors.
Robert, how do we determine the 8 cleanups? How do we determine geographically?
So we will probably use the same routes that we're going to use for our cutback programs where we trim and edge the sidewalks. But most of them would be main thoroughfares and secondary routes in the city of Columbia. Okay? So our other thing that we've done recently,
Let me ask something. We have 2 crews for litter cleanup.
That's correct.
Do you have a total budget line item specifically for what those 2 crews all in?
I don't, but I've got a note to go get you that number.
Okay, Ms. Wilson, I'd like to
Yes.
see that. Because I do think
Litter crews
that that's
currently.
the way to get out of this situation we're in as far as litter. Great, 8 times a year is great. But those
get 5 days
temporary
a week.
signs are going to stare at you for
absolutely.
two months. And that's, we're going to hear about that.
We either need a dedicated service or dedicated
And that's-
employees.
5 days a
That's,
week.
they do
5
5
days
days
a
a week.
That's what I'm trying to get to is
And if we could get to that,
even if they're part-time
yes.
and just work every district, every municipal boundary, something. I mean, I think it's to that point with neighborhood frustrations and small business frustration.
Good, we'll take a look at it.
But we also, I think, at the same time, when we see something get people litter, we gotta start finding people, because people, I mean, I watched somebody the other day just throw their stuff there over there at the convenience store, and they're eating their lunch in a styrofoam container and everything, and just left it laying there on the ground like, somebody's gonna come by and clean up after them.
Post a sign, you got a phone number on there, you should get a fine. Our business license, our code needs to follow up with these folks. So,
I was just asking Robert, a couple of years ago, we talked about actually putting up more litter signs that say that there is a fine, because you do have to give the message to people. They used to be everywhere, but you rarely see signs now that say don't litter,
Yeah.
or there's a fine for litter.
Or, hey, smile, you're on camera.
thank you.
Yeah, or something like that, but I think we have to tell people how we want our city to look and how to treat it.
The expectation.
So, yeah, what the expectation is, so that they don't continue to contribute to the problem, because some may stop, but right now we don't have that. Right now, we aren't saying we don't want litter, and we let it sit, so folks are like, let's keep littering.
Somebody else will get it. We need
city
to
will
change
pick it up.
that.
Yeah, that is the thing, the city is when the city, so I think
Probably the phone calls.
I would like for us, I think one thing we had to start doing is how do we put the message out that we don't want litter in
I
our
think we
city?
need to create a campaign that we're gonna be enforcing it, every opportunity. We're gonna utilize our cameras, everything. I don't know if that's legal buzz. Somebody needs to say, if we capture somebody on video, can we find them after the fact? Especially when it comes to jumping.
Mr. Brennan, we'll get that. I mean, I think what I'm hearing is what's the amount of resources we're doing right now today with clarity how many, staff or personnel and or contractors are we putting towards the effort right now today? So you can justifiably get to what more we need to do, right?
And I think there's more of a responsive maybe approach to it because you can't keep up with the pop-up frequency of all this stuff. That's the most frustrating thing, knowing that our zoning folks, they don't need to keep going out there every week to go pull up signs if on Garner's Ferry, Rosewood, all corners of the city. So if there's some balance via funding and workforce, how we can
Find the
clip
people
away.
who own the signs
Well, that's what I would love to do. Absolutely.
and use
To,
that money to go into litter patrol.
Yeah.
I mean, because, if it's 16 people,
I mean, it's already written
we
that
buy
it's
junk
illegal to
houses
place in
or
the easement. Yeah, we buy
whatever.
junk. Yeah.
Obviously, we're going into primary seasons. I saw a lot of that coming down.
Well, I think we have to do,
Bull coming into town.
we gotta do a better job of really on election stuff because it makes it hard. Our folks, not all of our team members understand what's right of way and what is right of way. We need to have a better way to disseminate that to all candidates
Just
as well.
register their signs with us and say,
Yeah.
okay, we know now.
And you take ownership of it.
You think so?
I mean, we gotta figure out
Forest
something.
Acres only let you put them out 30 days before the election, or 45 days, or something like
I
that.
think what we came up with last time worked. I think we need to educate on that ahead of time.
Sorry.
You don't,
First Amendment.
What did we do last?
What's First Amendment?
we were
Putting
just
illegal signs.
firm
It says
on, we
First Amendment.
defined what, 10
We'll
feet
say that
from
doesn't
the, was it 10 feet?
It was
What did
10
we say?
feet, I
10
believe.
feet from the, and whatever that meant or looked like for you.
Because I
That's,
think I got one email from Eric.
yeah.
And Robert, thanks for all your team does.
Thank you. So the LED light conversion has really helped with the police department overall. We continue to improve our street lights. So Dominion's pretty much done with their street lighting program. They've converted every day to 4,000 K. What's happening now is they no longer make high-pressure sodium bulbs, which is the old yellow bulbs. So we're starting to switch all of our decorative lights out to LED lights also. So you'll see some of those changes. We did Two Notch Road recently with a grant on that. So you're going to see some of the changes coming on that. There's just a little bit difference of color, but not a lot.
It makes it big, the old tranquility of the roads with regular lights is gone. Now with the new LED lights,
That's correct.
like it doesn't,
You
that's
like
what
the
I'm,
old soft white.
I like the soft white.
I like being able to see.
Yes,
More important.
tranquility on the
Film
road.
industry, film industry has put some stuff out there about how they now have to use technology to give that old road feel. But,
What level of LED are they putting out? Because I noticed several street lights that were brighter before are less bright now with the LED conversion.
So Dominion did 4,000 K. We're actually doing 3,000. So we're still keeping a little bit of yellow to it, but not near as much. The old ones that we're using are about 2,500 to 2,700 K.
You can see.
Yeah.
yes, sir.
I think that's helped public safety out quite a bit too, is the white light and, the shadows. So the other thing I want to bring your attention is the animal shelter facility. We've had a lot of conversations about this. Over the past several years, we've recently had a study done 3-4 years ago that said, our building currently that we have there now actually needs torn down. It's not worth rehabbing and we need a new facility. But as we came up with discussions this year in budget, and I'll try to do this fairly quickly, we know an estimated construction cost is somewhere $25-30 million. It was 25 4 years ago, so we figure it's closer to 30 million now. Even if we retrofit a building with what we have to do with it and the amount of wastewater and sewer work we would have to do is still in the inside fencing is good. But what the team did is they said, hey, let's come up with a practical approach for council this year. We understand that we're, doing a lot of building. We have a lot of other needs in the city. So let's look at maybe just getting $2 million and start getting an assessment and a design service.
Is it really that much?
We're guessing it
Seems
would
like a
be.
very large number to
For the
me
assessment.
we know what the needs are. I mean, we did that already, right? With that good best life, good life, or whatever it was. So my question is should we be using that for the looking at some type of design to construction, it can't be $2 million.
So we would look at that, but it's 4 years old. We want somebody to take a quick look at the assessment and make still it's still relevant to today's terms, and then actually build a design, get a design firm, and get it to shovel-ready project is what this would do. It would get it out the door. Until we bid that, I don't know that we
On
know.
that, Robert, though, this has been an ongoing discussion. Because we provide the service for the county, it eliminates our ability to be a no-kill shelter because of the volume and the majority. So we really need to have a discussion with our county counterparts, because either we need to have a new contract and have everybody assessed, because we can't absorb when we're much less, with this, or we need to just have them do their own deal.
So I will
I mean, because it would reduce our construction needs.
Correct. And I will bring this to council. So the last time we negotiated the contract, we actually talked to the county about being a participant in the adoption program. They elected at that time to continue not to be a participant. They wanted to pay the fees. The one thing we did do with the fees in the last contract is we put a CIP in, or a CPI in it, to where our fees go up to the county every year at least. So we are recovering some money, but we do agree that our intake is a lot from the county.
Brings me to another point that if I remember, we had some kind of deal with Palmetto Lifeline that they were supposed to take X amount of dogs or animals from us and help with the adoption, and that's changed drastically, which is also driving our needs for this. What happened with that? I thought that was an obligation when they got funding.
So that was an obligation they had with Richland County, and we will go back to Richland County and revisit that and make sure that they are meeting their commitments.
Because, I mean, it's a significant amount of animals, if I remember, like 1,800 a year or something.
Correct.
And they're
It's
doing
quite a few.
Did we put money, if we didn't put money into that, we need to stay away from that.
So we did not put money into that
Right.
program when
There
it
you
was
go.
done. So, but Richland County did, and that was part of that
I think for
contract.
me is as much emails that I get from folks about no kill and all that, we can't achieve it in the current situation. We could if it was just city residents in city. So if we can't, then we've got to figure out how does this work in the future, because our needs are bad out there. I mean, it is time to get off the trash pile and.
Do we have the 2 million to start that design
I just think that's.
and rolling up the final assessment?
Oh,
I like the shovel-ready approach, and that can drive discussions.
And you know, this cost could be a little less than that. We're not sure. We just think that's what the cost would be. So that is one of the requests in the budget this year.
Okay, so
And I
we
think we
can
gotta
fund that and say to the public, we are designing a new animal shelter.
And
Yes.
I think we've got to look at a more retail-friendly area. Is there an opportunity where a shopping center, there's a dead part, just like we did with the car dealership on where water is now on Beltline? It made a difference in that. Can we do something with that too? So we're not only improving an area, but we're getting the resources we need there. And having it in a more thorough area, I think it will help with the adoption program and the fostering program. Because it's not exactly inviting to go out there, right?
So you think about relocating them?
I mean, I think you have to. I mean, they're located on a trash mound. That was a former dump site. It's true.
I can't deny that. So
Site selection comes with the assessment.
that would be part of it, yes.
I mean, I just think of some of these empty warehouses and other things that are in corridors. Could we make an impact difference? So I think we need to look at that as well.
We will take a look at them.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Robert. I appreciate you. I'm gonna fly through Missy a little bit
Thank you for answering my calls. Thank you,
more
sir.
quickly. Capital replacements, Missy may have touched on the lease program, earlier. Proceeds of 15 million per year needed to replace police, fire, public works, parks and rec, and other general fund departments, rolling stock and technology refresh, debt service of 2.5 million. We did not yet include new capital purchases in the lease. Obviously, that's subject to budget availability. But obviously, everything we're talking about, you all have touched on it already, requires equipment and technology to expand these type programs and services. Intergovernmental, we have not received in writing, but I have been told verbally to expect a proposed daily rate increase of at least $25 per day. I think that may be what would be the start of it. And I was told it will be, somewhere north of that for the years to come. Maybe up to 100. We're not sure. We haven't gotten it in writing, but we have to plan for at least $25 of an increase from where we are.
What is it currently?
71, I think, yeah.
I think this might be, guessing, 13, my 17th request, that we actually get to see the real actual budget and who's paying and why we're paying and other entities aren't paying.
We'll talk about that a little bit more today on another matter. The Fifth Circuit requests are typically around these amounts, or they are these amounts. We haven't gotten, I think we got the public defender, so that is the number. The solicitor, I don't think we've officially gotten a written request, but those are the numbers
It's
as
the
we
same,
know them. Yeah.
They're the same number for.
Okay, that's information. So getting to the point of it all, these numbers rolled up are huge, and we know that, but they're real, and they're not, excess. We're not asking for something in excess, we're asking for what is truly needed to, begin to align with the modeling that we're also working on for our future growth in the city. And I won't read all this out. These are the things that we just went through, and we just tried to couple it up, projecting if we were able to get started for this next year, for some of those items that we've mentioned, that some are one-time, it's a mix of one-time needs and continuing obligations. Ms. Councilwoman Herbert looking over the next 3 to 15 years. But even in this next budget cycle, the FY 26-27, we would love to be able to fund, what we can. And so that is, no real rhyme or reason to the future number. It would be based off what you all work with us to decide on about these additional type revenue streams that we need to do a little research on some, but then obviously the obvious ability that we have is through millage. And so the next slides show over the years where we have not utilized.
And to point out, these items are not, other than the capital replacement, these are not reflected in the proposed budget we have currently. That's not in balance.
Right, so I've mentioned that, and we keep mentioning that, but this is over and above. The close this gap, we can look at further efficiencies, I think, other than, technology type, AI, and we're starting to go down that path. But those are limited adjusting service expectations. We're never gonna adjust down on service delivery. And then, of course, we're getting to these potential revenue strategies. So talk, Missy, about what this graph demonstrates. And I think you all have already said it, I know the mayor has earlier, that, just based off our structure in this capital city, even though we have not chosen to opt into any millage increases, what we'll show, even if we did, and we think I and the staff, I wouldn't be irresponsible if I didn't, as a manager, say incremental increases over time is reasonable, okay? Particularly for what we're couching it in, these public safety related needs. But since 2009, 10, we haven't done this. So go ahead. The assessed values are noted too.
Right.
So here, I know what you're saying, but the value of the mill's gone up, so taxes have gone up. I mean, you have to be realistic. That's a benefit on both sides. At the end of the day, we only get a certain amount of our millage anyway, correct? So, you know, this goes back to this concept that between the nonprofits, the non-tax paying entities, the unique situation of being a capital city, visitor program, other cities are looking at taking that revenue that comes in from everybody who utilizes but doesn't live here. What I don't want to do is solve this problem by putting it on the backs of the small business folks who are already paying, who aren't getting a tax break, and the residents in the city who have consistently supported and moved forward where we are. We need to figure out how we capture the majority, which is getting close to 50% of the people that come in and out of here. Maybe it's a public safety penny or something, I don't know, but I think we need to look at all alternatives to present. You know, I wish the State House would allow us to create our own penny within the city limits to address that, because as we swell every day and we swell on the weekends and we swell, these are services that they're being provided. And you heard the chief and others. I mean, and it's not just the police department, it's our fire department, it's our public works. When these events happen and these protests and everything else, there is a multitude of people that are involved. It's not just one entity, and these are massive costs all the way across the board. So, I mean, I think we need to look at all options to have a discussion about it, you know, because we can show, you know, the millage rate went down, but the millage value went significantly up since '09. I mean, we were probably at 200 back in '09, and now we're at what, 791?
Right, so it's certainly, yes, I mean, that's part of the demonstration here is that as our assessments go up, but then as we keep leveling millage back to basically what it's the same, what we generate from that doesn't equate to the level of growth that the assessments grow. So, you know, this assumes, you know, as we've kind of demonstrated our revenues from property taxes, assume about at the best a 3.5% growth every year, whereas our expenses are well beyond that. Just looking at our fleet, just looking at our capital, our investment in our STEP program this coming year and additions of debt have eaten the entire amount of increase. That's before we add anything else that we've talked about in our
The
budget.
reality is property tax does not
Precisely.
cover, but what, a third of our budget?
It's 45% of our revenues, but if I were to apply it towards the budget, it's definitely not 45% of our budget.
30% argument,
Right.
somewhere in there?
Our share of property taxes, you're saying is 30% of our overall general budget?
It's 45% of our revenue collections. It's probably 20 to 30% of our budget as overall. Because if you look at our total operating budget is 180 million, property taxes just collect 74. And actually, that's property taxes, all sources of property taxes. So the property taxes that come by collections from your bill, as well as local option sales tax collections. And sir, we have looked at some additional.
We didn't have local option.
Then it would be, right, exactly.
Yes.
Right, exactly. And so, and then we have evaluated, there are two opportunities within state law that we can do with regards to penny. There's one available to the county as a penny. The city would have to do this. It would be at least a 3-year implementation, and it's for capital because we don't utilize, the one penny tax that our county does not utilize is the capital. We take the local option sales tax and we have the transportation tax. Those two taxes each collect about 95 million for the entire counties. The one that's remaining that we don't take advantage of is a capital tax. Of course, it is only utilized for capital. It would not fund any operating cost. And it would be
Capital
for
is our biggest need right now.
Precisely, and it would also it would cover the construction costs, and it's for, set projects. That would be an opportunity, that's, of course, a conversation to have with your colleagues as well at the county and everything, but it would have to be,
At the same time,
We didn't bring that spreadsheet.
we didn't. But
as
I
we
can,
look at capital needs in the future, how does that fit into a PPP model that other cities are looking at, and where are the cost savings there? I mean, you're still paying, right? I mean, but is it a cheaper model over a 30-year period than it is for us to take it all on our own? And is that something that's an option? So I think we really got to look at all the strategies, but I definitely think we've got to do something that incorporates the folks that come here, and not just put it on the burden of the citizens. And you see other communities, I mean, rental car at the Fort Worth Airport, you pay for the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, their residents ain't paying for it, visitors are paying for it, or part of it, I should say. They probably don't pay in some of it.
the other one, of course, that is out there is an impact fee, which would be about the equal amount of work as a penny tax, but it would not spread.
The impact fee is very limited.
It is very limited. Again, it would be for capital, and again, it would only capture what we have going forward, not what we currently have on the books, and what's coming through the city on a daily basis.
Issue there too is the counties also have those conversations right now too, around impact fees and, millage and that sort of thing. I'd be curious for us to look at, I mean, you mentioned capital being our need right now. Yeah, a number of our needs are also mirrored, by the county, but also are related to areas where we have service, where we are essentially a service provider to the county. And so I'd be curious for us to have some of these conversations with some of our colleagues over the county and think through best solution. And what helps us get things done quicker as well.
We're certainly looking at all options available to us, including any options for other new fees, which are very limited to us by state law. We did in 2019, when we did this work with city council as well, looking at both some of the things that the mayor's addressed about how we apply these costs to the non-taxed entities. We looked at our business license, and city council, we did work with it. We were able to hire on a third-party firm who has helped address some of our business license opportunities with regards to non-taxed entities, especially as many businesses have converted to non-tax status. That did help us with our business license collections, and so we were able to, we're able to sustain those. But it was a sort of a one-time bump over like a 2-year period, and so those have been addressed from the business license perspective. And of course, we always try to address our, user fees where we can, but of course, and still trying to keep those, services and cost available.
This is a little cheat sheet on what some of the options, mechanisms Missy's talking about. It has my notes on it though, but just so you have it handy. It's the
Is the fire bond an additional revenue option?
Oh, yeah. Those are your revenue.
Okay.
Yeah, fire for fire.
Thank you.
Does the fire bond have to be initiated by the county? No.
Basically, that's a capital, so basically you reserve part of your property tax for bond indebtedness. It still calculates as a part of it still would be a property tax millage. So it's just a matter of how it gets calculated. We can talk to Jeff a little bit more. But basically, you would be able to go beyond what your cap is by holding that and reserve it for a future debt. So, but at this point, and so the information up here refers to just some information about our current millage. Our current value of a mill is $7.90, and as the mayor mentioned, the value of our mill has gone up. And so, and then each mill generates about $790,000. Then you have to discount from that what actually gets collected. The current millage is 89.6. Our eligible millage is 17.8. And the eligibility comes from what is the Act 388, as we all lovingly refer to. the cap that we're allowed to have by looking back the past 3 years of eligible property tax, which is based on CPI and on growth in population. And then, so that would be basically 3 years' worth of millage.
We'll go back and add for the examples. No, we just showed 17, but we didn't show.
Right, we didn't add, so the first section is referring to how much it would generate, so a 5 mil adjustment would generate approximately 3.7 million. And then going up from there, 7 million would generate 5.2, 10 million would generate 7.5, and 17 would generate approximately 12.7 million. The first year, of course, that would continue to grow year after year. Those would be the revenues, of course, that we're capturing on an ongoing basis. Then the examples that we provided don't include the potential costs of the adjustment on annualized for 17 mills, but we can calculate from there. So $68 a year on a property that's assessed value is $100,000. It's not addressing the market value. Taxable value of a $250,000 home, the millage for five mills would be $50 annually, $70 annually for 7 mills, 100, so 170 on a 17 mill increase. That's, of course, for an owner-occupied home, and that would be the annual amount. I'm not going to apply the lost factor for that, the lost credit to that.
That it was 68 for the $100,000.
Right.
What defines the eligible mileage, or millage, I'm sorry?
That was what I was referring to as the bank millage from the past 3 years cap that we have. So CPI plus population for each of those years. So each year, we're eligible to increase it by a certain amount.
Haven't, so that's the potential.
And we have not, right. And one of those years, actually the third year, the year that's rolling off, is like a 9 mil. So it's a large, so next year, this availability will be much lower, could potentially be much lower. We don't know the cap on this coming year. It will probably be released by the state in the next week or two. So at a minimum, the millage that's dropping off would be about 9 to 10 mils. That would be that we would be losing that opportunity for revenues
If we don't do something this year.
if we don't do something this year. Correct.
Then on the 6%, it was,
The 6% value, that would be like a rental property, residential property.
Right.
That assessed value, five mills would be $30, 7 mills would be 42, 10 at 60, and so 17 mills would be 102.
102.
102, yes. And then 250,000 home, a 5 mills would be 75, 7 mills would be 105, 10 mills would be 150 per year. And of course, the 17 mills on a 250,000 assessed value home would be 255. And these, of course, are approximates, but
255.
yes, 255.
So this is meant to be food for thought. Obviously, we have to, we're gonna quickly talk about the next steps in the budget process. The takeaways are that we really are trying to present a responsible and sustainable approach to addressing reality. It's not excess, not intended to come across that way at all. It's just the needs of a growing community. Focusing on investments in safety and emergency response, because that is really what drives all the other economic opportunities we have for our community. And replacing aging facilities, adapting to technological advances, and wanting to have visible improvements in community, in neighborhoods, and paying attention to operational needs and schedule replacements. So I know it's a lot to digest, but again, that's where we are.
We explored a
Yes, sir.
vacancy tax,
I'm sorry?
a vacancy tax.
You have a vacant properties fee. So that in essence, would that not cover what you're thinking of?
I had read where some other cities are, because, properties are so low assessed, they're sitting there, and I just was thinking about some of the properties we've talked about in some of our neighborhoods and seeing that people are only paying $300-400 a year in property tax, and they have no incentive to do anything. And you multiply that by how many empty lots we have, and with nobody doing, at least if somebody was building something or doing something with that property, it's less cleanup, less cost, but also generates property tax, which would also increase, just food for thought. I mean, I think we've got to look at everything, because if it's generating taxes, then that solves a big problem, right? At least we're getting some, but with the amount that vacant property and people not doing things on it, creates an issue in itself too. I mean, it ends up costing us money, right? To look at it, but
We are open to looking at any and all options.
I mean, me personally I think we have to address the public safety from the realm as we talked about, which is fire, police, and public works. How that is addressed in the future, how can we do that? But at the same time, I also think we have to look at, this can't become a burden of just the folks who already are paying, because they shouldn't absorb everything else. A lot of these costs are generated because we're the capital city, and I think it's fair, just like the penny sales tax, I think the number was 40-something% was generated from outside the county. Anyway.
Well, I know David Hatcher with Code Enforcement is implementing some new programs now that will really give some good insights with regards to, well, it's for the short-term rental as well as the vacant lot programs. And so it's a good use of technology. So it will, I think it could also help provide some additional insights as well. And we have been able to incorporate some of those revenues. But this has been great conversation, very good discussions. Thank you, City Council, for your attention and good questions and support.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, Missy.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, everybody.
so we'll continue to refine the budget projections. If you do have any more specific mechanisms that you want us to really do a deep dive on, we'll start doing our own research with some of the things you mentioned. Obviously, though, we're right here at it, and we are gonna be following the budget schedule as outlined in your materials and up on the screen.
Like we said, the budget is an annual process. It's not just one time a year.
So any feedback you all got today that warrants some adjustments from what you're hearing for kind of strategic moving forward, y'all are gonna make that
Well,
prior to the budget workshop?
yes, sir. We will do that research quickly. I don't know that there's certain things that I've heard today, that are, that lean into our county counterparts where we'll make,
No, I'm sorry.
it's not like we're gonna move the needle on that over time. Those are things we can keep working towards, but,
I was talking more about our conversation on beautification, litter, stuff like that.
yeah, we gotta balance the budget, so we're definitely keeping these things top of mind that we can do, short of a millage increase. I don't, it's sort of like we'll try, we'll do our best, we
Hey, Missy,
will
you said-
sharpen the pencil.
Some litter pickup qualifies for H-Tax?
Some that we are already utilizing, $4.8 million from our hospitality tax. Some of that cost was attributed to what we've done with beautification efforts. We're also taking $1 million from our tourism development fee. Of course, that was more related to Finley Park. So we're utilizing our special revenues And it's the programs like our beautification are what qualify us to get to that point, to be able to take that amount of funds.
Are those beautification efforts just for hospitality districts or citywide?
Roadways that travel to hospitality districts. So if you think about our thoroughfares, things like that,
I mean citywide.
It could be. We'll be
especially on main
creative.
thoroughfares and primary roads.
And we'll know some potential surplus in HTAX when we potentially know
So
that.
your schedule for May the 26th is when we will bring back special revenues and be able to utilize, and, yes, so at that point, that's when we plan to bring back the final special revenues budget.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank
And
you.
so I guess as we balance and try to accommodate these different things, what we can, and particularly in next year's budget, we will, I can't say that I won't bring you a recommendation that maybe incorporates some of what we've shown you regarding millages, just to get the feedback on what we could achieve out of the low-hanging fruit, the things that y'all are saying are particularly important. Because again, I'm not sure that we're gonna get there immediately on some of these other alternative
I agree.
ways. So I can't say that we're not gonna bring a recommendation that incorporates a millage increase. So that's where I am. Okay. Thank y'all so much.
All right, is there a motion?
Yes.
So moved. Let's go ahead and get this over with.
Got to read it for the
I
record.
think Madam Clerk,
We know
Madam
what it
Clerk
is.
says
You
I
don't
have
even
to.
to read it. So moved.
There's a motion to move into executive, stop. Discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements pursuant to South Carolina Code 3470. This includes We Love 5 Points LLC, Congaree Riverfront District Business Park, Convention Center District Business Park, budgetary requirements related to the intergovernmental fire agreement, CRC 911 communications agreement, and also receipt of legal advice relating to matters covered under attorney-client privilege regarding Brittany Ruffin as PR of the estate of JR versus City of Columbia.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Bye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Dow? Mayor Rickman?
Aye.
George.
Thank you, everyone who contributed. Appreciate it.
Like a
I'll need to